I didn't mean it like that. I was joking when I said my daughter's TikTok boyfriend looked like a failed AI experiment trying to pass as human. How was I supposed to know she'd completely cut me off? Now she calls me Glenda online instead of Mom. She deleted my number and moved in with him and his influencer friends. She made a viral video calling me toxic and full of boomer vibes. All I did was make one little joke about his ridiculous green hair and black fingernails. He calls himself Chrono Void, for heaven's sake. Is that even a real name? My own flesh. And blood has blocked me everywhere. She posts about cutting ties with biologicals like I'm some villain in her story. I haven't heard her voice in over a year. And for what? Because I spoke my mind at Thanksgiving dinner? The day Luna brought Chrono Void home for Thanksgiving was unseasonably cold for Seattle. I remember adjusting the thermostat while balancing, my phone against my shoulder, deeply engaged in a work call about ethical parameters for VR healthcare simulations. It's not about whether we can create truly empathetic AI caregivers, I explained to my colleagues as I arranged a centerpiece of autumn leaves on my dining table. It's whether we should. I paused to check the turkey. Perfectly golden, exactly on schedule. We risk creating emotional dependencies that can't be fulfilled. I've published 3 papers on this very topic. My phone vibrated with a text notification. Luna, running late, Chrono Void finishing livestream, start without us. I felt my jaw tighten. Chrono Void, even the name irritated me. Last week, I'd spent an hour scrolling through his TikTok, bizarre videos mixing philosophy quotes with digital distortion effects, all delivered by a young man with unnaturally bright hair who called himself a neo-existentialist performance artist. I need to go, I told my colleagues. My daughter and her partner are coming for Thanksgiving. After ending the call, I poured myself a glass of Cabernet and pulled up Chrono Void's latest video. There he was, now sporting green hair, talking about something called post-human identity constructs. The comment section was filled with adoring fans calling him visionary. What happened to majoring in journalism? I muttered to myself, remembering Luna's early college ambitions before she dropped out to explore digital narratives independently. A decision I'd called throwing away potential during one of our many arguments. I'd been raising Luna alone since she was 7, after her father decided his graduate assistant was more interesting than his family. I'd worked 80-hour weeks to ensure Luna had everything: the best schools, music lessons, academic enrichment programs. I'd taught her to value logic over emotion, achievement over idle pleasure. I'd prepared her for a competitive world. So how had she ended up with this digital peacock? When the doorbell finally rang, I'd rehearsed my greeting. Warm, open, non-judgmental. But nothing prepared me for the actual sight of Elliot Baker, Chrono Void in the flesh. His green hair seemed even brighter in person, his black fingernails stark against pale skin, his jacket embedded with tiny LED lights that pulsed gently. Luna stood beside him, haircut asymmetrically, her familiar brown eyes now the only recognizable feature to me. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was guarded, already expecting criticism. "Luna, sweetheart. And you must be... Elliot?" "Most people call me Chrono Void now," he said pleasantly, extending a hand. "But Elliot works too." I forced a smile. "Let's stick with Elliot, shall we? Dinner's ready whenever you are." I noticed Luna's shoulders tense. Strike one, and we hadn't even reached the table. Dinner began with stilted small talk. I asked about those internet videos you two make, carefully avoiding the word TikTok, as if it was beneath my vocabulary. "Actually," Luna said, animation, entering her voice for the first time. "We're working on something exciting. Tell her, Void." I took another sip of wine to mask my reaction to that ridiculous nickname. Chrono Void leaned forward. "We're developing an interactive experience that merges AI-generated imagery with human emotional expression. The algorithm responds to biometric feedback from the viewer, creating a personalized audio-visual experience that..." "So it's mood rings for the digital age?" I interrupted, chuckling at my own cleverness. Luna's face fell. "It's a lot more sophisticated than that, Mom." Of course, I said, refilling my wine glass. "I'm just trying to understand in layman's terms." Chrono Void continued enthusiastically. The interface creates a post-human dialogue between organic consciousness and digital interpretation. We're exploring the permeable boundaries of, I said, wine glass hovering near my lips. You look like a failed AI experiment trying to pass as human. I laughed lightly. The silence that followed was absolute. Luna's fork clattered against her plate. What did you just say? I'm joking. It's a joke, Luna. I looked between them. Because of all the AI talk and the appearance. The appearance, Luna repeated flatly. Come on, the hair, the makeup, the whole. I gestured vaguely at Chronovoid. Look. This look, Chronovoid said quietly, is an artistic expression of my identity. Luna stood abruptly. This was a mistake. I knew it would be, but I wanted to believe you could just once, see me without judgment. I'm not judging. I made a joke. Your jokes are weapons, Mom. They always have been. Luna's voice trembled. My entire life has been a series of your little jokes about my choices, my friends, my dreams. I felt my professional demeanor slipping. Luna, you're overreacting. I'm done, Luna said firmly. I'm done trying to be good enough for you. Chronovoid stood, placing a gentle hand on Luna's shoulder. We should go. I followed them to the door, bewildered by the rapid deterioration of the evening. This is ridiculous. You're leaving Thanksgiving dinner over one comment? Luna turned at the door, eyes glistening. It's never been just one comment, but this is the last one I'll hear. The door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded deafening to me. I stood in my immaculate condo, surrounded by unserved side dishes and a perfectly roasted turkey that would go uneaten. Well, that was dramatic, I said aloud to no one. 3 days after the disastrous Thanksgiving dinner, my phone chimed with a notification from a colleague. Isn't this your daughter? The link opened to a TikTok video with over 100,000 views. Luna sat in what I recognized as Chronovoid's apartment, her expression composed but her eyes red-rimmed. So I finally did it, Luna said to the camera. I cut ties with my biological mother after years of microaggressions and emotional warfare, disguised as tough love and just joking. My stomach dropped as Luna continued. When someone repeatedly shows you they can't respect your choices, your partner, or your identity, at some point you have to recognize that blood isn't an unlimited license to wound. The comment section overflowed with supportive messages, many sharing similar experiences with parents. When I tried to call Luna, I discovered I'd been blocked. The same on email, Instagram, even LinkedIn. It was as if my daughter had disappeared, behind a digital wall. At work, I noticed subtle changes in how colleagues interacted with me. A younger team member who usually asked for mentorship now seemed distant. During a virtual meeting, someone referenced that viral video about toxic parents and quickly changed the subject when they noticed my presence. That evening, I drafted an email to Luna's old address. While I regret my poor choice of words, I think your reaction is disproportionate to the offense. I was merely making a humorous observation about Elliot's unusual aesthetic choices. I continued for several paragraphs explaining why Luna misunderstood, how humor works differently across generations, and the importance of thicker skin in the real world. Not once did the word sorry appear without qualification. No response came. A week later, I sent a voicemail. Luna, this silent treatment is childish. We're adults. We should be able to discuss this. Still nothing. By Christmas, I created a fake Instagram account to follow Luna. Through this digital peephole, I watched my daughter's life continue without me. Luna and Chronovoid, Elliot, appeared happy, surrounded by friends, their creative work gaining attention. In one video, Luna casually referenced Glenda when speaking about her past. She calls me Glenda now, I whispered to my empty living room, like I'm a stranger. At a January conference on digital ethics, a young woman approached me after my presentation. Dr. Varelli, I just wanted to say your work on ethical AI boundaries is fascinating. Are you by any chance Luna V's mom? Her content on establishing digital boundaries with family has been so helpful to me. I froze. unsure how to respond. "Yes," I finally said. "I'm her mother." "Oh, wow." The woman's eyes widened slightly. "That's interesting." She quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. That night in my hotel room, I opened a bottle from the minibar and watched Luna's latest video. Luna and Elliot were moving into a larger space with two other creators, all laughing as they arranged furniture. Luna looked happier than I had seen her in years. "To new beginnings," Luna said in the video, raising a glass, "and leaving the dead names behind." I sent an email, the words blurred by wine and hurt. "So I'm dead name now? After everything I sacrificed to raise you alone? This digital tantrum has gone far enough, Luna. When you're ready to act like an adult instead of a wounded teenager performing your trauma for likes, you know where to find me." I hit send before I could reconsider, then immediately regretted it. This wasn't who I wanted to be. The next morning, I received a message from a former doctoral student. "Professor Varelli, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I've been following Luna's work, and her discussions about family boundaries helped me navigate my own situation. Her thoughts on conditional love versus acceptance really echo some of what you taught us about ethical frameworks. I see so much of your intellectual rigor in her approach, even if it's in a different medium." I stared at the message for a long time, something shifting inside me. Was it possible that I'd been wrong? Not just about one insensitive joke, but about something fundamental in how I'd approached motherhood? The thought was so uncomfortable that I immediately dismissed it. Luna was being oversensitive. She'd come around eventually. This was just a phase, an assertion of independence that had gone too far. Yet when I tried to return to work, to my ordered life of academic papers and consulting calls, I found myself distracted, checking Luna's social media multiple times, daily, watching for any sign that she missed me as much as I was beginning to miss her. 1 month stretched into 2. Winter turned to spring. Luna's digital presence grew more confident, more established. She never mentioned me directly again, but occasionally I caught glimpses of our shared history transformed into artistic metaphor. A broken mirror piece called Maternal Reflections, a video installation about voices that correct rather than connect. It was during one of these late-night stalking sessions that I came across a reply to Luna's work from a therapist specializing in parent-child estrangement. She commended Luna's brave boundary setting and suggested her followers might benefit from understanding how parents who prioritize being right over being connected often create the very disconnection they later mourn. The words hit me like a physical blow. Was that what I had done? Prioritized being right over being connected? The thought was so at odds with how I saw myself, a devoted single mother who had sacrificed everything for her daughter's future, that my first instinct was indignation. But as spring turned to summer, and Luna's absence from my life became a chronic ache rather than an acute shock, I found myself less certain of my rightness. I remembered moments from Luna's childhood, her excitement about an art project met with my questions about its practical application. Her tears over a friendship conflict met with my lecture on logical conflict resolution. Her teenage poetry dismissed as melodramatic, when perhaps it was simply emotional in a way I couldn't access. Had I treated Luna's emotional life as a problem to be fixed rather than an experience to be honored? The thought was uncomfortable enough that I found myself, for the first time in my adult life, seeking professional help. "I've lost my daughter," I told the therapist during our first session, and I'm not entirely sure why. Dr. Rivera was a calm woman with kind eyes who didn't seem impressed by my academic credentials. "Tell me about your relationship with Luna before this incident," she said. "We had the usual mother-daughter tensions," I explained. "She's always been more emotional, more artistic than me. I tried to balance that by teaching her to be practical, to think critically." "And how did she respond to that approach?" I paused, suddenly remembering Luna at 16, shouting through tears, "You can't even let me feel what I feel." I'd told her she was being irrational. "Not well," I admitted, but I was preparing her for the real world. It's not kind to emotional people. Dr. Rivera nodded thoughtfully. "So you were protecting her, in your way." "Exactly. By teaching her that her emotional responses were wrong or weak." I shifted uncomfortably. That's not what I said. What did you say? When she expressed strong emotions. The memories came unbidden. Luna crying over not making the school play. Disappointment is part of life, Luna. You need to develop resilience. Luna excited about a new friendship. Just make sure this relationship doesn't distract from your studies. Luna heartbroken over her first breakup. This is why I told you dating in high school is a waste of time. I encouraged her to be logical, I said finally. And what message might she have received beneath those words? I stared at my hands. That her feelings were inconvenient to me. It was the first honest thing I'd said about my mothering in years. I sat across from Dr. Rivera, a therapist I'd been seeing for 3 weeks. My posture was perfect as always, legs crossed at the ankles, hands folded precisely in my lap. The office was intentionally soothing, soft lighting, abstract art, and plants that someone remembered to water. It felt nothing like my stark, minimalist condo. I've been reflecting on your suggestion, I said, about whether I use intellect to avoid emotion. I think there's some validity to that observation, though I wouldn't go so far as... Glenda? Dr. Rivera interrupted gently. What are you feeling right now, as you talk about this? Feeling? I paused, genuinely stumped. I suppose... Frustration that Luna can't see past a momentary lapse in judgment? That's a thought about Luna, not a feeling within yourself. I shifted uncomfortably. This fixation on emotions seems counterproductive. Does it? Dr. Rivera asked. Your daughter seems to believe your difficulty acknowledging emotions, hers and your own, is at the heart of your strained relationship. She exaggerates. I've always encouraged her to be logical rather than reactive. Tell me about a time when Luna was emotional as a child. How did you respond? I thought back. When she was 12, she didn't make the school play and cried for days. I explained that rejection is part of life, that she needed to develop resilience rather than dwelling on disappointment. And how did she respond to that approach? I faltered. She stopped talking to me about auditions, about many things, actually. Dr. Rivera nodded. What might have happened if you'd simply sat with her in her disappointment, without trying to fix or teach? The question hung in the air, opening a door I had kept firmly shut. After our session, I returned to my condo and, for the first time in weeks, I didn't immediately check Luna's social media. Instead, I sat on my balcony overlooking the Seattle skyline, allowing Dr. Rivera's question to sink in. What if I had simply held Luna when she cried over the school play? What if I had said, I'm sorry you're hurting, instead of, this will make you stronger? What might our relationship look like now? The following day, I created a new anonymous account to watch Luna's content more carefully. I forced myself, past my knee-jerk dismissal of the medium, and really listened. In one video, Luna and Elliot discussed digital identity versus authentic self. The genius of performance art in digital spaces, Luna explained, is that it allows simultaneous creation and deconstruction of the self. We're both more and less ourselves online. I paused the video, struck by how this paralleled my own academic work on constructed identities in virtual environments. Had I been so fixated on the green hair and unconventional presentation that I'd missed the substance? I watched more videos. Luna discussed philosophical concepts with depth and nuance, applying theoretical frameworks to modern digital existence in ways that were accessible without being simplistic. Her approach was different from my academic rigor, but the intellectual foundation was unmistakable. She is my daughter, I whispered to myself, just not the version I tried to shape her into. That night, I did something unprecedented. I set up my phone camera, applied no filters, wore no makeup, and simply spoke from the heart. Luna, I began, voice unsteady. I've been watching your work. Really watching it this time, not just seeing what I expected or feared to see. You're brilliant in ways I failed to recognize. I took a deep breath. I'm not going to justify what I said about Elliot. It was cruel and dismissive. But more importantly, it was part of a pattern, one you've tried to tell me about for years while I refused to listen. Tears formed, unexpected and unwelcome. I didn't wipe them away. I have spent my career studying human-computer interaction, yet I failed at the most basic human interaction with my own daughter. I didn't validate your feelings. I prioritized being right over being connected. I used humor as a weapon when I felt threatened by choices I didn't understand. I continued, acknowledging specific instances from Luna's childhood and young adulthood where I'd been dismissive, controlling, or cold. I'm not asking for forgiveness or reconciliation. You've set a boundary and I respect it. I just wanted you to know that I see now what I couldn't or wouldn't see before. Your path is valid. Your partner seems thoughtful and caring. Your work has meaning. I ended with, I'm proud of you, Luna, not despite your choices, but because of them. You had the courage to be yourself, even when I made that unbearably difficult. I posted the video publicly and tagged Luna, then closed my laptop and sat in the silence of my immaculate condo. 3 days later, a message appeared. Not from Luna, but from Elliot. Luna saw your video. She needs time, but she heard you. Not an olive branch exactly, but not a door slammed in my face either. I wrote back a simple, thank you, resisting the urge to ask more questions or push for more contact. The following week, I met with Dr. Rivera again. I made a video apology. To Luna, I told her. Her partner responded that she saw it, but needs time. How do you feel about that? This time I didn't deflect. Sad, relieved, scared. Scared of what? That it's too late. That I've irreparably damaged my relationship with the one person I love most in the world. The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. And why did it take this estrangement for you to realize that? The question stung, but I forced myself to consider it honestly. Because I was so convinced I was right, about how to parent, about what Luna needed, about everything, that I couldn't see the harm I was doing. I thought I was preparing her for life. Instead, I was preparing her to leave me. Dr. Rivera nodded. That's an important insight. What will you do with it? I hadn't expected that question. Do with it? Yes, insights without action rarely lead to change. I thought about it. I need to learn how to connect emotionally, not just intellectually, not just for Luna's sake, if she ever comes back into my life, but for my own. Spring arrived in Seattle with its characteristic mixture of rain and tentative sunshine. I transformed one corner of my condo into a small studio space where I'd been experimenting with digital art. Clumsy efforts compared to Luna's work, but meaningful to me. I'd joined a support group for estranged parents, where I was often the voice of uncomfortable truth when others lapsed into self-pity. Our children don't owe us a relationship. We have to earn it through respect, not demand it through obligation. Through social media, I watched Luna's career flourish from a distance. My daughter and Elliot launched a successful gallery installation merging AI-generated imagery with interactive elements. The New York Times digital arts section featured their collective. Luna was interviewed on a podcast about the future of digital identity. I didn't attempt contact again. Instead, I focused on my own growth, reading books on emotional intelligence that I once would have dismissed as pop psychology. I attended a workshop on digital art for academics, feeling oddly vulnerable as the oldest participant by decades. In therapy, Dr. Rivera noted the change. You're talking about your feelings more naturally now. It's still uncomfortable, I admitted, but necessary. I spent a lifetime avoiding emotional discomfort by intellectualizing everything. Look where that led me. One evening, I received an email from the organizers of a digital ethics conference. They wanted me to participate in a panel on intergenerational perspectives on virtual identity. The other panelists included several younger experts in the e-harder field. We'd like you to specifically address how perspectives on digital selfhood differ across generational lines, the invitation read. I accepted, then noticed one of the other panelists, E. Baker, Chronovoid. Whether this was coincidence or intentional, I didn't know, but my heart raced at the possibility of indirect connection to Luna's world. The panel was conducted virtually. When Elliot appeared on screen, his hair was now blue, but his manner was as thoughtful and articulate as I remembered from that fateful dinner. He didn't acknowledge any personal connection to me, and I followed his lead, engaging with his ideas, professionally and respectfully. After the panel, Elliot sent a private message. "Good discussion today, Dr. Varelli. Your points about ethical continuity across technological evolution were insightful." "Thank you," I replied, then hesitated before adding, "How is Luna?" A long pause before his response. "She's doing well. Her solo installation opens next month in Chicago." "I'm glad to hear it," I wrote. "Please don't tell her I asked. I don't want to disrupt her boundaries." "I respect that," came his response. "She's stronger than she knows. That part reminds me of you." I stared at those words for a long time, this tiny bridge between my world and Luna's. I sent a handwritten card to the gallery in Chicago, addressed simply to Luna V. Artist. Inside, I wrote only, "Your voice matters. Your work matters. I'm learning from it." I didn't sign it, but knew Luna would recognize my handwriting. Summer passed without response. I hadn't expected one, but still checked my phone more often than I cared to admit. My work continued, papers published, conferences attended, consulting projects completed, but it all felt somehow hollow without anyone to share it with. In August, I made another change. I accepted a position leading a new interdisciplinary program at the university, focusing on ethical implications of emerging technologies across generations. For the first time in my career, I built emotional intelligence components into the curriculum, requiring students to consider not just what was possible, but how it would feel to those affected. "Dr. Varelli, this is different from your usual approach," one colleague commented during a curriculum review. "I'm evolving," I replied simply. "We all should." In the fall, I found myself in a small, independent bookstore when I noticed a flyer for an upcoming digital art installation called Maternal Code Debugging Family Systems. The artist? Luna V. My heart hammered in my chest. The exhibition would be here, in Seattle. Luna was coming home, or at least to the city I now called home. I debated with myself for days about whether to attend. Would my presence be an intrusion? Would it violate the boundaries Luna had clearly set? I consulted with my support group and with Dr. Rivera. "Send a message first," Dr. Rivera suggested. "Ask permission rather than assuming." It took me 3 days to draft a simple email. "I've seen that your exhibition is coming to Seattle next month. I would value the opportunity to see your work in person, but I respect your boundaries. Would my attendance be unwelcome?" No reply came. A week passed, then 2. I assumed silence was my answer. Then, 3 days before the exhibition opening, a message appeared from an unknown number. "Preview night is Thursday, 6 p.m., less crowded." Just that. No signature, but it had to be from Luna. She was giving me a chance to see her work without forcing a confrontation. Thursday evening arrived rainy and cold. I dressed carefully. Professional but not severe, a touch of color in my typically monochrome wardrobe. As I drove to the gallery, I realized I was nervous in a way I hadn't been since defending my doctoral thesis decades ago. The gallery was modern and minimalist, with Luna's installation occupying the main space. As I entered, I saw her immediately, standing with a small group, her hair now cut short with a streak of silver, wearing a simple, black dress with geometric jewelry that I suspected was also tech-enabled in some way. She didn't see me at first, giving me a moment to observe her in her element, confident, articulate, gesturing expressively as she explained something about her work to an attentive listener. Then her eyes met mine across the room, and for a moment, neither of us moved. I didn't approach, allowing her to control this interaction. After a brief hesitation, she nodded slightly. Acknowledgement, not invitation. I turned my attention to the installation. It was breathtaking, a series of digital portraits that fragmented and reformed as viewers moved through the space. Mothers and daughters, their features sometimes merging, sometimes separating, with lines of code visible beneath the surface of the images. One piece in particular caught my attention. 2 women, their features distorted yet recognizably similar, reaching toward each other across a glitching divide. The title plaque read, "Maternal Code, Debugging in Progress." I stood before it for a long time, aware of tears forming but not fighting them. This was us, Luna and me, caught in artistic metaphor. Connected but separated, reaching but not quite touching, still disrupted by bugs in our system. It's not finished. The voice behind me was familiar yet changed. Lower, more assured than I remembered. I turned to find Luna standing there, a careful distance between us. "It's beautiful," I said simply. "It's complicated," she replied. I nodded. "Like its subjects." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "This isn't reconciliation," she said quietly. "I'm not ready for that." "I understand," I said, and meant it. "Thank you for allowing me to be here." "Your video," Luna said. After a moment, "It was unexpected." "For me too," I admitted. "I'm learning, Luna. Too late, perhaps, but I'm trying." She looked at me directly then, her eyes so like mine but warmer somehow. "Why now? Why did it take me completely cutting you off for you? To hear me?" It was the question I'd been asking myself for months. "Because I was wrong," I said simply. "Not just about Elliot or about your work, but about how to love you. I thought preparing you for a harsh world meant being harsh myself. I confused criticism with caring." Luna's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in her eyes. "I have to get back to my guests," she said. "Of course." I stepped back, giving her space. "Your work is meaningful, Luna. You're good at what you do." She paused. "Thank you for coming, Glenda." Not Mom, but not dead name either. Progress, perhaps. As I turned to leave, Luna added, "The exhibition runs for 3 weeks. An invitation to return? Perhaps?" A tiny door left slightly ajar. "I'd like to see how it evolves," I replied. Walking back to my car in the Seattle rain, I felt something unfamiliar. Not the sharp pain of loss that had been my companion for months, but something gentler. Not hope exactly, but possibility. Luna might never call me Mom again. Our relationship might never return to what it was. Perhaps it shouldn't, given what I now understood about its flaws. But tonight, she had seen me seeing her work, her worth. It was a beginning, or perhaps more accurately, a new coding sequence initiated after the old program had crashed. I didn't have the right to ask for more. A year has passed since the Thanksgiving dinner that severed my relationship with Luna. The seasons have cycled through winter's isolation into a new autumn, with its inevitable reminders of loss. These days, my condo feels both more like home and less complete than ever. I stand in a small gallery in Seattle, surrounded by digital art from creators over 50. A community I've gradually become part of. My own piece, a meditation on absence and presence in digital spaces, occupies a modest corner. It's not particularly good, but it's honest, something I'm learning to value above perfection. "Your use of negative space is quite evocative," says a woman beside me, her silver hair cropped short against her skull. "The absence becomes a presence of its own." "That was the intent," I reply, though intent and execution don't always align. She laughs, spoken like a true academic turned artist. We chat for a few minutes about the exhibition before she moves on. These interactions no longer feel forced to me. Small connections with strangers that once would have seemed trivial now feel like small victories against isolation. My phone chimes with a notification. Luna has been featured in Wired magazine's annual Digital Innovators issue. The article praises her groundbreaking work exploring familial disconnection in an increasingly connected world. There's a photo of Luna in her studio, looking confident and centered. On the wall behind her is a piece I haven't seen before, a fragmented digital portrait of 2 women, their features distorted yet recognizably similar, reaching toward each other across a glitching divide. I zoom in on the image, my heart catching. The piece is titled Maternal Code. When I return home, I sit at my desk for a long time, staring at the Seattle skyline as evening turns it into a constellation of lights. The Wired article is open. On my laptop, Luna's image glowing on the screen. I've seen her in person only once since that night at her exhibition opening. We'd passed each other at a conference on digital ethics where we were both speakers, though on different panels. We'd nodded to each other in the hallway, civil, distant, careful. Neither of us had reached out after that brief encounter. Now, looking at her success documented in Wired, I feel a complicated tangle of emotions that the old Glenda would have immediately suppressed or intellectualized. Pride in her accomplishments, sorrow at our estrangement, regret for all the ways I'd failed to see her. I begin typing an email I've been drafting in my mind for months. Dear Luna, I promised myself I wouldn't intrude on your boundaries again, and this will be the last message I send, unless you indicate you want further contact. I saw your feature in Wired today. Your work continues to evolve in ways that move and challenge me. Maternal code spoke to me particularly, whether that was your intention or not. This year has been one of profound reflection for me. I've come to understand that my approach to motherhood was shaped by my own unresolved wounds, my fear of vulnerability, my belief that preparing you for a harsh world meant being harsh myself. I was wrong. You deserved a mother who could celebrate your uniqueness rather than trying to conform it to my expectations. You deserved emotional validation alongside intellectual guidance. You deserve to be truly seen. I want you to know that I found peace with your decision to maintain distance between us. Your boundaries aren't a punishment I'm enduring until you come around. They're the natural consequence of my actions over many years. If you ever wish to reconnect, I'm here. If not, please know that I carry you with me always, and that my pride in the woman and artist you've become is unconditional now, as it always should have been. With love and respect, Mom, Glenda. I read it over twice, then press send before I can second-guess myself. Whatever happens next is not in my control. My therapy sessions with Dr. Rivera have become monthly rather than weekly, focused more on maintaining growth than crisis management. Today we're discussing what healing looks like when reconciliation may never come. It's odd, I tell her. I've always measured success in definitive outcomes. Papers published, tenure secured, problems solved. But there's no clear metric for this kind of healing. Dr. Rivera nods. What feels different to you, regardless of Luna's response or lack thereof? I consider this. I listen more. To colleagues, to students, even to strangers. I ask more questions and make fewer pronouncements. I've stopped assuming my perspective is the only valid one. And how does that feel? Uncomfortable, I admit with a small laugh. But also freeing. There's less pressure to be right all the time. That's significant progress, Glenda. But it doesn't fix what's broken with Luna. Dr. Rivera leans forward slightly. The work you're doing isn't just about Luna. It's about you becoming a person who can have healthier relationships with everyone in your life, including yourself. I let that sink in. I sent her an email yesterday, after seeing her feature in Wired. What are your expectations around that? Honestly, I don't expect a response. I just wanted to acknowledge her accomplishment and express my regret without burdening her with expectations. To let her know she's truly seen by me now. Dr. Rivera smiles. That sounds like a mother who's learned to love without conditions. 3 weeks later, I'm browsing an online arts journal when I see a feature on Luna's latest installation. The comments section is filled with praise for Luna's work. Almost without thinking, I create an account under my real name and leave a simple comment. Beautifully expressed. I'm proud of your work. I don't expect a response. It's enough to speak my truth openly, without expectation or demand. That evening, while preparing dinner, my phone pings with a notification. Someone has replied to my comment. My hand trembles, slightly as I open the app. It's not from Luna, just another commenter engaging with my observation. I feel a momentary pang of disappointment, then a gentle shift toward acceptance. I place my phone face down and continue chopping vegetables, the rhythmic motion soothing. Outside my window, Seattle prepares for another evening, lights blinking on across the city skyline. Somewhere out there, Luna is living her life, separate from mine but connected by invisible threads of shared DNA, shared history, shared intellectual curiosity. It's not the relationship I once envisioned. It's not even truly a relationship anymore. But in my growing capacity for emotional honesty, I've found a way to hold both the grief of what was lost and gratitude for what remains. The knowledge that my daughter exists in the world, whole and thriving, partly because of and partly despite my influence. As I set my table for one, I realize I'm humming something I haven't done in years. The tune is vaguely familiar, and after a moment I recognize it. A lullaby I used to sing to Luna, long ago when connection seemed simple. Some bonds can't be broken, even when the relationship transforms beyond recognition. Some love persists, even in absence. I eat my dinner, alone but not lonely, carrying Luna with me in ways that transcend the digital divide between us. The next morning brings an unexpected invitation from the university. They're establishing a new center for digital ethics and intergenerational communication, and they want me to lead a panel discussion on bridging digital divides communication across generations. In preparing my presentation, I find myself incorporating elements of what I've learned this past year, not just academic theories about digital communication, but my personal experience of disconnection and its consequences. I even include a slide referencing Luna's work, credited properly. Luna V, digital artist and theorist. The day of the panel arrives. I'm nervous in a way I haven't been about a professional presentation in decades. This feels more vulnerable, more personal than my usual academic discussions. The auditorium is nearly full, a mix of faculty, students, and community members. As I scan the crowd, preparing to begin, my heart stutters. In the back row sits a figure with a streak of silver in her dark hair. Luna. She makes no gesture of acknowledgement, just sits quietly, another face in the audience. But she's here. I take a deep breath and begin my presentation, focusing on the research and theories as planned. But when I reach the slide featuring Luna's work, I depart from my script. This piece, by digital artist Luna V, perfectly captures the paradox of modern communication. We have more tools to connect than ever before, yet genuine understanding across generational divides remains elusive. The artist suggests that we're all encoded by our histories, our relationships, particularly our early ones. The glitches we experience in communication aren't technical failures, but human ones. I pause, then add, as someone who has experienced this disconnect personally, I can attest to the accuracy of the artist's representation. Sometimes the people we most want to connect with are the ones we most struggle to understand. The rest of the panel proceeds as planned. When the Q&A begins, I watch Luna from the corner of my eye, but she doesn't raise her hand. She simply observes, her expression unreadable from this distance. After the event, as attendees file out and colleagues gather in small groups, I hesitate. Should I approach Luna? Acknowledge her presence? I decide to wait, allowing her to choose if and how we interact. As the crowd thins, I gather my materials, trying not to search too obviously for a glimpse of her. Perhaps she's already gone. That was a thoughtful analysis of my work. I turn to find Luna standing a few feet away, hands in the pockets of her black coat. Thank you for coming, I say, careful not to overreach. It means a lot. I was curious, she says, her tone neutral. Your email mentioned reflection and growth. I wanted to see what that looked like in practice. There's no warmth in her voice, but no hostility either. Just careful observation. And, I ask quietly, it was interesting to hear you acknowledge the damage of digital disconnection when you spent years dismissing my work in that very field. I nod, accepting the gentle rebuke. I was wrong, about many things. We stand in awkward silence for a moment. Would you like to get coffee? I ask, then quickly add, no pressure, I understand if you'd rather not. Luna studies me for a long moment. Not today. I have a flight back to Chicago this evening. She hesitates, then adds, but I'll be back in Seattle next month for a residency program. Perhaps then. It's not a promise, but it's not a refusal either. I'd like that, I say simply. Luna nods. I should go. As she turns to leave, I resist the urge to reach for her, to force a hug or any physical connection. Instead, I say, You're Wired feature was excellent. Your articulation of digital identity as both refuge and expression is brilliant. She pauses. Thanks. A beat, then. The comment you left on my installation review. I saw it. My heart quickens. I meant it. No, she says, that's why it mattered. With that, she walks away, her steps measured and confident. I stand in the emptying auditorium, feeling strangely light. Not because everything is fixed, it's not, and may never be, but because something true has been exchanged. No manipulation, no performance, no intellectual sparring. Just a moment of genuine acknowledgement between two people finding their way back to some version of connection. The residency program Luna mentioned is at the Pacific Northwest Digital Arts Collective. I discover through a simple search. It's a prestigious opportunity, one that will bring her to Seattle for 3 months. 3 months in the same city. I don't contact her again, honoring her space and timeline. But I do add the dates of the residency's public events to my calendar. If Luna is ready for that coffee, I want to be available. If not, I'll continue to support her work from a distance she finds comfortable. As Thanksgiving approaches again, 1 full year since that fateful dinner, I receive an unexpected delivery. It's a small package containing a digital frame. When I turn it on, it displays a single artwork, Maternal Code, version 2.0, by Luna V. It's the same image I'd seen behind her in the Wired photo, but slightly modified. The two women reaching across the digital divide are now a pixel closer, not touching, not fully connected, but the gap between them has narrowed almost imperceptibly. There's no note, no message, just the art itself, speaking in Luna's visual language. I place the frame on my desk where I can see it every day, a reminder of what was lost, what remains, and what might yet evolve. Not a traditional happy ending, but something real and true. Two women learning to respect each other's boundaries while acknowledging their unbreakable connection. I touch the screen gently, then turn away to prepare for my day. There's work to do, a life to live, growth to continue, with or without the reconciliation I once thought essential. But the tiny narrowing of that digital gap gives me something I hadn't allowed myself before. Not expectation, not entitlement, but simple, quiet hope. Luna's residency began in February, during Seattle's rainiest season. I marked the date of her arrival on my calendar but made no attempt to contact her. The digital frame she'd sent me at Thanksgiving, displaying her Maternal Code version 2.0 artwork, remained on my desk, a daily reminder of our complicated connection. The Pacific Northwest Digital Arts Collective hosted a welcome reception for their new residents. I debated attending, weighing the risk of overstepping against the opportunity to support Luna's work. In the end, I decided to go, arriving late and positioning myself near the back of the room. Luna stood with several other artists near a display of their preliminary concepts. Her hair was longer now, the silver streak more pronounced against the dark. She moved with a confidence I'd never seen before, gesturing expressively as she explained her project to an attentive group. I didn't approach, content to observe her in her element. She caught sight of me about 30 minutes into the event, our eyes meeting briefly across the room. I nodded slightly, and she returned the gesture before turning back to her conversation. As the reception wound down, I prepared to leave, having accomplished what I came for, showing support without intrusion. I was halfway to the door when I heard her voice behind me. Dr. Varelli. I turned. Luna stood a few feet away, clutching a glass of sparkling water. The digital frame, I said. It was a thoughtful gift. She nodded. I wasn't sure if you'd understand what it meant. The narrowed gap, a pixel closer. Yes. She glanced around at the thinning crowd. That offer of coffee. Does it still stand? My heart leapt, but I kept my voice even. Absolutely, whenever you'd like. Tomorrow morning, there's a place near the collective studio. Analog Coffee on Summit Avenue. I know it. What time? 9:30? I'll be there, I said. She nodded and turned back toward her colleagues without another word. Not warm, but not cold either. Somewhere in between, a neutral territory we were both cautiously exploring. I arrived at Analog Coffee 15 minutes early the next morning, selecting a table by the window. The cafe was busy but not crowded, filled with people working on laptops or engaged in quiet conversation. I ordered a cappuccino and tried to calm my nerves while I waited. Luna arrived precisely at 9:30, dressed in a charcoal sweater and black jeans, her silver-streaked hair pulled back. She ordered at the counter before joining me. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I'm still processing whether this is a good idea," she replied with characteristic directness. "But something you said in your panel resonated with me." "What was that?" "You called our communication problems human failures, not technical ones." That's exactly what my work has been exploring, how technology isn't the barrier to connection. "We are." Her tea arrived and she wrapped her hands around the mug. "Your work is brilliant," I said. "I should have recognized that long ago." "Yes, you should have." No anger in her voice, just stating a fact. "But that's not why I wanted to meet." I waited, giving her space to continue. "I've been in therapy too," she said, "working through my anger, my hurt, trying to understand why your opinion always mattered so much, even when I pretended it didn't. And I realized that while I was running from your judgment, I was still defining myself in opposition to you, still orbiting you just from a greater distance. I absorbed this. I'm sorry I created that dynamic." "I participated in it," Luna said. "That's what I'm trying to acknowledge. Your criticism was harmful, but my response, cutting you off entirely, wasn't just about setting boundaries. It was also about punishing you." Her honesty stunned me. "You had every right to protect yourself." "Yes, but there's a difference between creating healthy distance and weaponizing absence." She took a sip of her tea. "At least that's what my therapist suggests." "Mine says similar things," I admitted. A ghost of a smile crossed her face, the first I'd seen directed at me in over a year. "So we're both works in progress." "Very much so." We talked for nearly an hour, carefully navigating around the edges of our most painful history. Instead, Luna told me about her residency project, an interactive installation exploring how family communication patterns become encoded in digital interactions. I shared updates on my work with the university's new Digital Ethics Center. As we prepared to leave, Luna hesitated. "My first open studio is next Friday evening. If you'd like to come, that would be okay." "I'd like that very much," I said, careful not to overreach with my response. She nodded. "I should get to the studio." "Of course." I paused. "Luna, thank you for this. I know it wasn't easy." "It wasn't," she agreed. "But maybe it was necessary." We developed a cautious rhythm over the next few weeks. Coffee every Thursday. Morning. Open studio visits where I would observe her work with genuine interest but limited commentary. We didn't discuss our past directly, instead building a new pattern of interaction based on mutual respect and careful boundaries. One Thursday in March, Luna arrived at our coffee meeting looking tired, shadows under her eyes. "Rough night?" I asked. She nodded. "Installation issues. The projection mapping isn't aligning properly, and the opening is in 2 weeks. Is there anything I can do to help?" She started to shake her head, then paused. "Actually, yes. You have experience with the VR ethics project at Berkeley, right? The one using projection mapping for empathy exercises?" "I consulted on it last year," I confirmed. "Would you mind looking at my setup? Maybe you'd see something I'm missing." The request, simple professional assistance, felt monumental. Luna was inviting me into her creative space, trusting my expertise. I'd be happy to. That afternoon, I visited her studio for the first time. The space was open and industrial, with high ceilings and large windows. Luna's installation occupied the center, a complex arrangement of projectors, sensors, and translucent screens. "The concept is interactive family constellations," she explained, guiding me through the technical setup. "Visitors input basics information about their family communication patterns, and the system generates a visual representation that evolves as they move through the space." "Fascinating," I said, genuinely impressed. "Show me where the alignment issues are happening." We spent 2 hours troubleshooting, speaking the shared language of technical specifications and workflow processes. In this domain, our interaction felt natural, unforced. I identified a calibration issue with one of the sensors, and Luna quickly implemented the fix. "That's it," she said, as the projection snapped into perfect alignment. "Thank you." "It's an extraordinary piece, Luna. The way you've translated emotional patterns into visual language is remarkable." She studied me for a moment. "Would you like to try it? Input your own family data and see what it generates?" The invitation felt significant. A door opened that had been firmly closed. "Yes, if that's okay." Luna guided me through the input process, where I answered questions about family communication styles, conflict resolution patterns, and emotional expression. The system processed my responses, then projected a constellation onto the surrounding screens. 2 bright points of light appeared, connected by a line that pulsed with color, shifting from cool blues to warm golds. The points moved in a complex dance, sometimes drawing closer, sometimes drifting apart, but always maintaining their connection. "What does it mean?" I asked softly. "The system is interpreting our relationship," Luna explained. "The color shifts represent emotional temperature. The movement patterns show how we orbit each other, connection and disconnection." I watched our digital representation dance across the screens. "It's beautiful." "It's honest," Luna corrected. "Beauty isn't the point." "Truth can be beautiful," I said, "even painful truth." Something shifted in Luna's expression, not quite warmth, but a softening. "Maybe." The installation opening was a significant success. Critics praised Luna's work for its emotional intelligence and technical sophistication. I attended, keeping a respectful distance as Luna guided visitors through the experience. Several times I caught her looking in my direction, her expression thoughtful. Near the end of the evening, she approached me. "Thank you for coming." "I wouldn't have missed it. The response seems overwhelmingly positive." She nodded. "It's been validating." A pause. "There's an after-party at Elliot's loft. He's in town for the opening." My heart stuttered. I hadn't seen Elliot, Chronovoid, since that disastrous Thanksgiving dinner. "Oh, I don't want to intrude." "You wouldn't be," Luna said. "Elliot suggested I invite you." I blinked in surprise. "He did?" "He thinks our progress is, in his words, evolutionarily significant." A small smile played at her lips. "It's his way of saying he respects the work we've both been doing." "Then I'd be honored to attend." The loft was in Capitol Hill, a converted industrial space filled with artists, technologists, and academics. Elliot greeted me at the door, his hair now a subdued blue, his manner warm but respectful. "Dr. Varelli, thank you for coming." "Thank you for the invitation," I said. "And please, call me Glenda." He nodded, leading me into the space where small groups of people chatted animatedly. Luna's installation was impressive, wasn't it? "Extraordinary," I agreed. "You must be proud of her." "I am, we all are." He studied me for a moment. "Your perspective on her work has evolved considerably." "My perspective on many things has evolved," I admitted. "Including me?" he asked. With surprising directness. I met his gaze. "Especially you. I made unfair judgments based on superficial observations. I'm genuinely sorry for that." "Apology accepted," he said simply. "We're all works in progress, aren't we?" "That seems to be the theme lately." Elliot smiled. "Luna is by the windows. If you'd like to join her, she's telling someone about your technical assist with the projection mapping." "She mentioned that?" "With considerable respect," he confirmed. I found Luna engaged in conversation with 2 other artists. She saw me approaching and made room in their small circle. Glenda was actually crucial in solving our projection alignment issues, she was saying. She identified a calibration problem I'd completely overlooked. "I just offered a fresh perspective," I said. "Luna did all the heavy lifting." The evening progressed with surprising ease. I didn't try to dominate conversations or correct others' perspectives. Habits I'd worked hard to break over the past year. Instead, I listened more than I spoke, asked questions, and engaged with genuine curiosity. As the party wound down, Luna walked me to the door. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for including me," I replied. It meant a lot. She nodded, then said, "My residency ends in April." "I know." The thought of her leaving again created a familiar ache. "I've been offered a teaching position at the Institute for Interactive Arts," she continued. "It's a 1-year appointment, but it could become permanent." "That's wonderful, Luna. They'd be lucky to have you." "It's here in Seattle." The words hung between us, full of possibility. "You're staying?" I couldn't keep the hope from my voice. "I'm considering it," she said carefully. "The opportunity is excellent professionally, and there are other factors to consider." "Such as?" She met my eyes directly. "Such as the fact that Elliot and I are taking a break. We're not sure if our relationship has a long-term future, and such as the fact that I've been doing some good work here, not just professionally." I understood what she wasn't explicitly saying. Our healing process was part of her consideration. "Whatever you decide," I said, "I support you completely. And selfishly, I'd be very happy if you stayed." "I haven't decided yet," she cautioned, "but I wanted you to know it's a possibility." "Thank you for telling me." We said goodnight without physical contact, still respecting the boundaries Luna had established. But as I walked to my car under Seattle's drizzling sky, I felt lighter than I had in months. Luna might stay. Our careful rebuilding might continue. Not because she needed me or I deserved it, but because we were both choosing a path of healing over the easier route of permanent estrangement. The next morning, I sent Luna a simple text. "Regardless of your decision about the teaching position, I'm proud of you and grateful for the chance to know the remarkable person you've become." Her reply came hours later. "Thank you. That means something to me now." Not everything was fixed. Our relationship would never return to what it had been before. Perhaps it shouldn't, given the flaws in that original dynamic. But something new was emerging, something built on truth rather than expectation, on acceptance rather than judgment. Maybe that was better than what we'd had before. Maybe it was exactly what we both needed. April brought cherry blossoms to Seattle, pink clouds floating against gray skies. I walked through the university campus, enjoying the contrast, when my phone chimed with a text from Luna. "I accepted the position, moving into a place in Fremont next month." I stopped beneath a flowering tree, joy spreading through me like warmth. "Congratulations! Perfect neighborhood for you. Let me know if you need any help with the transition." "Thanks, I might take you up on that." A simple exchange, yet monumental in its significance. My daughter was choosing to live in the same city as me, choosing to continue our careful rebuilding, choosing possibility over permanent distance. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. That word felt too simple for the complex renegotiation we were undertaking. It was something deeper, more intentional. Two adults consciously creating a new relationship on healthier terms. I continued my walk, surrounded by spring's renewal, carrying my own quiet rebirth within me. The path forward wasn't clear or certain, but it existed, and that was enough for now. I helped Luna move into her Fremont apartment on a surprisingly sunny Saturday in May. We maintained a careful choreography. I carried boxes from the moving truck while she directed their placement, both of us respecting the invisible boundaries that still existed between us. There was no reminiscing about her childhood bedroom or comments about her decorating choices. Just two adults completing a practical task together. "That should be the last of them," I said, setting down a box labeled studio equipment in her second bedroom, which she was converting into a workspace. "Thank you for your help," Luna replied, her tone polite but not warm. "It would have taken twice as long on my own." "Happy to help. The place has good light," Luna nodded. "That's why I chose it. North-facing windows are ideal for the projection work." We stood in awkward silence for a moment before I said, "Well, I should let you get settled. I'm sure you have a lot to unpack." "Yes." Luna hesitated, then added, "Would you like to get dinner next week? Once I'm organized." The invitation caught me by surprise. Our interactions had been limited to coffee meetings and professional events since she'd returned to Seattle. I'd like that very much. Thursday, there's a new place on Stoneway that's supposed to be good. Thursday works perfectly. As I drove home to my condo, I reflected on how far we'd come from that disastrous Thanksgiving dinner. Not back to where we were, that was impossible, but forward to something new, something tentative but real. Luna's teaching position at the Institute began in June. We settled into a rhythm of weekly dinners, conversations carefully focused on present concerns rather than past wounds. She told me about her students, her ongoing projects, her adjustment to teaching. I shared updates about my work, my digital art experiments, books I was reading. We were building a relationship based on who we were now, not who we had been to each other before. In late July, Luna invited me to a faculty reception at the Institute. "It's nothing fancy," she said over our Thursday dinner. "Just a summer gathering for faculty and their families." The word family hung between us, weighted with meaning. "I'd be honored," I said. The reception was held in the Institute's gallery space, a converted warehouse with exposed beams and polished concrete floors. Luna introduced me to her colleagues simply as Glenda, neither claiming nor denying our relationship. I followed her lead, engaging in conversations about digital aesthetics and interactive media without attempting to assert my academic credentials or redirect the discussion. "Your daughter is a remarkable addition to our faculty," one of Luna's colleagues told me late in the evening, making the connection on his own. "Her work on emotional mapping through digital interfaces is genuinely innovative." "Yes, she is remarkable," I agreed, warmth spreading through me at the simple truth of the statement. When I repeated the comment to Luna as we walked to our cars, she smiled slightly. "He thinks you're just a proud mom bragging about her kid." "Well, I am proud," I said, "though I've done nothing to earn that pride. Your accomplishments are entirely your own." Luna looked at me for a long moment. "That might be the most emotionally intelligent thing you've ever said to me." "I'm learning," I replied. "Slowly, but I'm learning." Autumn arrived with its inevitable reminders of the previous year's rupture. As Thanksgiving approached, I found myself growing anxious, wondering if the anniversary would reopen wounds we'd been carefully tending. During our regular Thursday dinner in early November, I finally addressed it. "I've been thinking about Thanksgiving," I said carefully. Luna set down her fork. "So have I. I don't want to presume anything, but if you'd like to have dinner that day, either at my place or somewhere neutral, I'd welcome that. If you'd prefer to maintain your own traditions now, I completely understand." Luna was quiet for a moment. "Elliot will be in town that week, for a conference." "Oh." I tried to keep the disappointment from my voice. "Of course you'll want to spend it with him." "Actually, he suggested the three of us have dinner together." I blinked in surprise. "The three of us?" "He thinks it might be healing. A reclamation, of sorts." She studied my reaction. "Only if you're comfortable with it." The thought of facing the man I'd so casually insulted was daunting, but also strangely appropriate. "If Elliot can bear my company, I'd be honored to join you both." "He doesn't hold grudges," Luna said. "It's one of his better qualities." "Unlike some of us," I said with a self-deprecating smile. Luna actually laughed, a sound I'd heard so rarely in recent months that it startled me. "We've made progress on that front, I think. We decided on a restaurant rather than either of our homes, neutral territory for this tentative peace summit." When Thanksgiving Day arrived, I dressed with careful attention, selecting clothes that were professional but not severe, adding a scarf with an artistic print as a small acknowledgement of the creative world Luna and Elliot inhabited. They were already seated when I arrived at the restaurant, heads bent in conversation. Elliot's hair was now a deep purple, shorter than I remembered. Luna wore a simple black dress with an intricate silver necklace that caught the light. "Glenda." Elliot stood to greet me. "Thank you for joining us." "Thank you for suggesting it," I replied, genuinely meaning it. The initial conversation was cautious, focused on safe topics. Elliot's conference, Luna's teaching, my recent work on digital ethics. But as our entrees arrived, Elliot gently steered us toward what we'd all been avoiding. "So," he said. 1 year ago today was quite different. I felt my chest tighten but forced myself to meet his gaze. "Yes. And I want to apologize to you directly, Elliot. My comment was cruel and dismissive. I made judgments based on superficial observations without taking the time to know you as a person." Elliot nodded. "I appreciate that. And to be fair, I was probably a bit much to take in at first impression. The green hair, the chronovoid persona, it can be jarring if you're not familiar with that particular aesthetic." "That's no excuse for cruelty," I said firmly. "No, but context matters." Elliot glanced at Luna. "We've all done a lot of reflection since then." "We have," Luna agreed. She looked at me. "I've been thinking about something Dr. Rivera said to me recently." "You're seeing Dr. Rivera too?" I asked, surprised. Luna smiled slightly. "Different Dr. Rivera. Mine specializes in family systems." Anyway, she pointed out that while your comment was the catalyst for our estrangement, the underlying issues had been building for years. "That's certainly true," I acknowledged. She also suggested that on some level, I might have been looking for a definitive reason to cut ties. Something clear and unambiguous that would justify what I already wanted to do. The observation struck me as deeply insightful. And my comment provided that. "It was a perfect storm," Luna said. "My frustration with years of feeling judged, combined with your dismissal of Elliot, who represented the life I'd chosen against your wishes." "Looking back," Elliot added, "I can see how that dinner was set up for failure from the start. We were all bringing our worst assumptions to the table." "And now?" I asked quietly. Luna exchanged a glance with Elliot before responding. "Now we're trying something different. Seeing each other as we actually are, not as we fear or assume the other to be." "I like who you actually are," I told Luna, emotion thickening my voice. "The real you is far more interesting, more complex, more valuable than any version I tried to shape you into." Luna's eyes glistened. "That means a lot to me." Elliot raised his glass. "To seeing each other clearly, finally." We clinked glasses, a simple gesture that felt profound in its significance. As we finished our meal, the conversation shifted to future plans. Elliot spoke about a new installation he was developing in Chicago. Luna mentioned an upcoming gallery show featuring faculty work. "Would you consider collaborating on something?" Elliot asked unexpectedly, looking between Luna and me. "A mother-daughter digital piece exploring your journey this past year?" Luna looked startled. "I hadn't thought about that." "It might be healing," Elliot continued, "for both of you and potentially for others navigating similar terrain." I waited for Luna's response, not wanting to pressure her either way. "Maybe," she said finally. "Not for this upcoming show, but perhaps for the spring exhibition, if we're both comfortable with it by then." "No pressure," I assured her, "but I'd be open to it if you ever wanted to explore that." We parted after dinner with a moment of awkwardness at the door. Luna hesitated, then briefly touched my arm, our first physical contact in over a year. "Thank you for today," she said. "It was better than I expected." "Much better," I agreed. "Good night, Mom," she added quietly, then turned to walk with Elliot to their car. Mom, not Glenda. The simple word brought tears to my eyes as I watched them drive away. Winter settled over Seattle with its characteristic gray skies and gentle rain. Luna and I continued our Thursday dinners, adding occasional weekend coffees to our routine. Our conversations gradually deepened, touching on more personal topics. Her relationship with Elliot, complicated but evolving. My friendships, few, but meaningful. Our shared interest in how technology shapes human connection. One rainy Sunday in January, Luna called me unexpectedly. "Are you free this afternoon? I'd like to show you something." "Of course. What time?" 2:00? At my studio at the Institute?" When I arrived, Luna was setting up a complex arrangement of projectors and screens similar to her residency installation, but more advanced. "Remember Elliot's suggestion about a collaboration?" she asked as I entered. "Yes," I replied, surprised. Have you been working on something? Just exploring possibilities. She gestured to a chair. I've been thinking about what a visual representation of our story might look like. She activated the system and light filled the space, abstract shapes that gradually resolved into recognizable forms. Two distinct figures appeared on opposite sides of the room, represented by patterns of light and color rather than literal human forms. The blue one is you, Luna explained. Notice the structured patterns, the precise angles. I saw what she meant. My representative form was composed of orderly geometric shapes, cool blues and purples arranged in logical sequences. And the red one is me, she continued. Her form was warmer, more fluid, with patterns that shifted and flowed organically. As I watched, the two forms began to move, initially in separate orbits, occasionally intersecting but mostly maintaining their distance. Gradually, the blue form began to change, its rigid patterns softening, warmer colors appearing at its edges. Simultaneously, the red form developed more structure, its chaotic flow finding rhythm. What am I seeing? I asked softly. Evolution, Luna replied. How we've each been shaped by the other, even during our estrangement. How disconnection paradoxically highlighted our connection. The forms continued their dance, remaining distinct but increasingly harmonious, occasionally creating new patterns where they overlapped. It's beautiful, I said, genuinely moved. It's just a sketch, Luna demurred. If we decided to develop it, we'd need to define our intended message more clearly. Which is, Luna considered this. Perhaps that genuine connection requires both parties to evolve. That true seeing is mutual. I like that, I said. And maybe also that healing isn't about returning to what was, but creating something new together. Luna nodded, her expression thoughtful. That resonates. She turned, off the projection, and we sat in the dimmed studio. I haven't decided if I want to pursue this publicly. It feels very personal. Whatever you decide is fine, I assured her. Just seeing this private version means a great deal to me. As I prepared to leave, Luna mentioned casually, by the way, I'm having a small gathering at my place next Saturday. A few colleagues, some friends, nothing fancy, if you'd like to come. The invitation represented another first, Luna including me in her social circle, rather than just one-on-one interactions. I'd love to. The gathering was small, as promised. About a dozen people crowded into Luna's Fremont apartment, sharing food and conversation. I recognized some of her colleagues from the Institute, and a few faces from her exhibition openings. I found myself engaged in a fascinating discussion about aging and digital identity with one of Luna's friends, a sociologist studying how different generations navigate online spaces. The assumption that older adults are inherently less adept at digital communication is both ageist and inaccurate, I was saying. The issue isn't cognitive capacity, but different cultural frameworks for understanding connection. Exactly, the sociologist agreed. It's not about ability, but about differing value systems around privacy, authenticity, and social boundaries. That's precisely what my mother has been exploring in her recent work, Luna said, joining our conversation. The ethical implications of cross-generational digital communication. My heart warmed at her casual claiming of our relationship. Throughout the evening, she referred to me naturally as my mother or my mom when introducing me to others, small acknowledgments that felt monumentally significant. As guests began to leave, Luna walked me to the door. Thank you for coming. I think everyone enjoyed meeting you. I had a wonderful time, I said. You have interesting friends. Luna smiled. You fit in better than I expected. I've been trying to evolve beyond my academic stiffness, I admitted. It's a work in progress. We're all works in progress, Luna said, echoing words we'd both said many times over the past year. Then, unexpectedly, she leaned forward and hugged me. Brief, but real, our first embrace since before the estrangement. I returned the hug carefully, not wanting to overwhelm her with my emotion. Thank you, Luna. For what? For giving me the chance to know who you really are. For allowing me to be part of your life again, on new terms. Luna stepped back, her expression thoughtful. I think we're creating something better than what we had before. more honest. I think so too. As winter gave way to spring, Luna and I finalized our collaboration for the Institute's faculty exhibition. We titled it Reconnection, a visual duet in digital space, an interactive installation that invited viewers to witness and participate in our evolving story. The opening night drew a substantial crowd. Luna and I stood side by side, greeting visitors and explaining the conceptual framework behind our piece. Several people commented on the unique mother-daughter collaboration, asking what had inspired. Yeah, we wanted to explore how relationships can transform through conflict and repair, Luna explained to one visitor. How connection sometimes requires disconnection first. It's a visual representation of our own journey, I added. From misunderstanding to genuinely seeing each other. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned, a young woman approached us, her expression hesitant. I just wanted to say thank you, she said. Your piece really moved me. I've been estranged from my mother for 3 years, and I've been wondering if reconciliation is even possible. Luna and I exchanged a glance. It's possible, Luna said carefully, but it requires both people to change, to see each other newly. And to respect each other's boundaries, I added. Healing can't be rushed or forced. The woman nodded. Your work gave me hope that maybe someday we could find a new way forward too. After she left, Luna turned to me. I hadn't really thought about how our personal story might affect others. Art connects us, I said. That's something you taught me this year. Luna smiled, a real warm smile that reached her eyes. Maybe we've been teaching each other all along. As we closed up the gallery that night, I felt a profound sense of peace. Our relationship would never be what it had been before that fateful Thanksgiving dinner. The wound had healed, but the scar remained, a visible reminder of damage done and repairs made. Yet what we'd built in its place was, in many ways, healthier and more authentic than what had existed before. We saw each other clearly now, without the distorting lens of expectation or judgment. We respected each other's boundaries and cherished each other's gifts. That night, as I drove home under Seattle's star-scattered sky, I found myself smiling. After a lifetime of believing I knew best, about Luna, about motherhood, about everything, I had finally learned the most important lesson, that true connection begins not with certainty, but with curiosity, not with judgment, but with wonder. Luna was right. We were both works in progress, evolving together and apart, creating something new from the fragments of what had broken. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.